Hello and welcome to First Crack, proudly brought to you by TaylorMade. Round 21 done and dusted. Two are very happy at the top, and that is Geelong and Collingwood. Frayne McRae, 11 straight, along with Chris Scott. I mentioned Frayne because he's the luckiest man alive, but he's on some run. And then their 8th spot's going to come into the next 2 weeks. And as we get to the business end of the season, two men to take us through the round in detail. Leigh Montagna and David King. Welcome, boys.
How are you, Kingy?
I wasn't joking about Frayne McRae. 11 straight. There's no luck in that now, Kingy.
Luckiest man alive.
He is the luckiest man alive.
He is. Is it luck, though?
I don't think it is.
Don't think it is.
But I'll tell you what is luck. Who's going to get 8th spot as we take a look at the ladder? The scenarios can come in any which way, but Carlton, as we look at it now, and the Bulldogs, especially with their runs home. But I love the fact that there's Richmond, who have got some easy games coming up. So we look at that when the ladder will come up in a minute. They're in 8th spot at the moment. Carlton sitting in 7th. Obviously a nervous run home.
Hey, don't try and paddle, mate. They're having some trouble with the graphics the other day. So just don't throw them under a bus.
No, but in discussion, it's a bad loss for Carlton today, isn't it?
Well, it keeps coming back to, is your game in good order? So the results take care of themselves, win or lose, and we'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah.
But the way they lost, I think, is the concern.
Yep.
And I know you're going to go in depth about this, Joey, but you know, you've got to qualify. Clearly, you've got to qualify for the top 8. And whoever finishes 9 and 10, there'll be some significant fallout. If it is to be the Dogs off a grand final last year, I mean, where do you start with that review? If it is to be the Saints, where do you start with that? Because this was meant to be their year. And then if it's Carlton in free fall, well, no doubt we'll talk about that next time.
And there's still so many machinations, even with the top 4 and the top 8. Even the ladder predicted with 2 weeks to go, it's almost impossible. It changes every week. So it's still a lot to play out, but it's getting really fascinating for top 4 and top 8. But we'll start, Dicko. Let's get into your first crack.
OK, my first crack. I might as well go after the title winners in Melbourne. I'm saying that, you know, pressure makes diamonds. Have you seen the movie Donnie Brasco, The Fugazi? At the moment, Melbourne are a Fugazi based on pressure. Now, it's a big call. And I'm not saying we're going to write them off in any way, shape or form, but they're a little bit soft in the underbelly, Joey. I'm looking at their second halves, and we'll have a look at a graphic in a moment with Geelong and the like, in terms of Collingwood, especially on Friday night. The second half for Melbourne, so let's just take a look at pressure rating. Call it 180 is league average. So Geelong and Cats, first half 173, second half 180.
Cranked it up.
And just cranked it up. So the second half, 195, and they win by 14 points. Then you go to the Doggies, 180, ramped it up in the second half to 185. And you might think 185 is not a big step, Joey, from 180, but it's massive to turn it up. They win by 15 in the second half. And then you go to Collingwood. That's just off the charts, 187 to 2. Like, they just absolutely mauled Melbourne. And I've just found the kryptonite. We knew they were supermen in the first half of the season, and I'm by no stretch writing Melbourne off. I'm just saying they are so gettable now with pressure.
So if teams can sustain that pressure and ramp it up longer and longer, eventually Melbourne are starting to crack a bit more than they would have.
Well, I said it was DKO, so it's demon knockout. You're not going to get them in the first round or the second. You've got to go the distance. You've got to go the 4 quarters to be able to get Melbourne. Now, last year, they ate that up with a knife and fork, Kingy, but this year they're choking on it a bit at the moment. And I'm a bit concerned because I just think what they've produced last year, I was expecting a pretty strong season this year to come in and look at a 3-bet, and then we go back to a Geelong who went 0-7. They're going to romp in here with this dynasty, and then they missed. They went 0-9, missed again, and went 11. I just think Melbourne got such an opportunity, but a little bit of soft under the belly at the moment with pressure because Collingwood forced them into a bit more handball, which is not the Melbourne game. Yeah. So that's my first crack.
Well, it is so hard to win back-to-back. We know that. So what's your first crack?
Well, I'm the opposite. I'm the opposite, Dicko, and this is why it's a good chat, because I'm going with don't jump. I don't think you ever see the complete picture for across a full game if you've got two very good sides going head-to-head. So I tend to track back to quarters won against the best team. So if you can put the ladder back up and let's talk about what's real and what you think is a lie. So in my opinion, if second and third finish the way they are, first week finals MCG, is everyone going to say, well, Collingwood should just win this? I don't think they will. I think Melbourne would start heavy favourites. So look at quarters won against the best teams in the comp. So everyone's played different opportunities and different games against top 8 teams, and some quarters are a draw, so they're not counted. So Geelong have won 16 and lost 10 against the best record in the comp. Collingwood have won 15 and lost 12. Melbourne have won 17 and lost 15. That's pretty good. Sydney 14 and 9. Richmond 17 and 14. The rest are in the negative. So Brisbane 12 and 14. Fremantle 13 and 22. That's a concern. Carlton 12 and 20. That's a concern. St Kilda 14 and 26 and Western Bulldogs 19 and 23. So I tend to look at, you know, how do you assess those games on the weekend? A half of Melbourne were brilliant and then Collingwood have their half. So do you say, oh, well, just because the siren goes when it goes and Collingwood holds sway by a goal or two, you say, well, Melbourne can't win it? I don't know if we're that cut and dried. I don't know if it can be that cut and dried, given the assets that we're all throwing in any given game. Who knows whether oil or water wins on one matchup in September? It's about qualifying in the top four and getting to the prelim final, and anything can happen. I know Geelong look like morals right now, Joey, but anything can. Even St Kilda had them rattled for 20 minutes in that second quarter. So I'm not jumping off anyone. If you stick fat with who you like, don't jump off.
Yeah, that's a good call, and it feeds into my discussion as well, because the third quarter with Collingwood, I thought the pressure was turned up and they got their opportunity to get the second half. Joey, your first crack.
Well, my first crack's at the Blues, and they're lost today, and I think now they've got their work cut out to play finals. And the big concern is they're going to have to do it without the Carlton crew, the crewless, the three, the big bulls that we spoke about at the start of the year that we lauded. So Matt Kennedy is out. We think he's going to be out for another 1 to 2 weeks with a fractured jaw. Georgie Hewitt, there's talk he might not play again this season with his back. And now they're going to be without their skipper, Paddy Cripps, for the next 2 weeks because of this hit today on Calamarchi. Whichever way you want to paint it, and I generally like to stick up for the players, but in this situation, it's not a marking contest. This was off a spoil. He's gone high, he's hit him in the head, he's subbed him out of the game. It's a 2-week suspension, it's high contact, it's high impact because he was subbed out, and it's reckless. So Paddy Cripps is not going to be there for the final 2 home and away games of the season. And on top of missing Hewitt and Kennedy, they're starting to get beaten up around the footy. For a team that were dominant, Kingy, and we spoke about it all year, the last couple of weeks, minus 20 hard ball gets today against Brisbane, minus 15 the week before. They've lost 4 of their last 6. They have to win one of their final 2 games to make finals. And without that big 3 in the midfield, they look vulnerable to me. They don't look like the same side at the start of the year that was brutal, that was physical, that was aggressive, that was just bullying and beating up on teams through the midfield. The Voss gloss might have worn off. They've got their work cut out now, and they're going to have to do some soul searching to try and find a way to play finals and might undo what has been such a terrific season up until the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks.
Well, it's not often you get a reaction off the back of a game to a coach on an incident like Paddy Cripps, but Michael Voss in his press conference had a comment.
I thought it was a good contest. I mean, the umpire probably told the story, didn't he? He didn't even pay for a kick, did he? So, clearly he felt that, the arms were out and it was both evenly contested, and clearly when you have not a lot of time to adjust in those circumstances, that made it for a difficult contest. I'm sure the one that will get looked at, but from what I've seen, the arms were outstretched and it was a pretty even contest, and there's microseconds in it. So if we're asking players to make microsecond decisions, I don't know whether the game enables that. I really don't.
For those that don't know, Michael Voss has done a law degree, and that was one of the great defences I've ever heard. If you had him there in the box, you'd...
Was he better off going with that, or I didn't see it?
I actually like that.
I know, but...
I do, because he's incapable of lying. You ask Michael Voss, he's going to tell you.
So we've got the age-old argument of are we protecting the head or not, and players can make decisions in microseconds. Yep. That's what they do. So I don't know if that's a microsecond decision. Coming in, he's off the ground, his shoulders ducked, he's ready for contact. I don't buy that. And I love Voss and I love what he's done with Carlton, but that's just not right.
You can't leave the ground unless it's a marking contest.
Mate, come on. He's ready for contact at least a metre and a half away. Cripps, he knows he's going to be late. He assesses these things for a living. He knows when he's late.
And you know what it was? It was at a time when they were under the pump and the skipper needed to make a physical presence. So he went to make a physical impact. Unfortunately, he's going to get it slightly wrong and he'll miss a couple of weeks. And, they've got Melbourne and Collingwood to come, the Blues. They need to win one of those 2, I think, most likely to make finals. And when you spoke about quarters 1, you mentioned Carlton's record. Yeah. Against the top 8 teams this year, they've only been in front 26% of the time against the top 8 teams. So they are struggling against the best. They've got their work cut out to win one of those 2.
The big problem is when they win clearances by 5+, 5 or more, they're 10-1. When they don't, they're 3-6. So they're clearance-based and contest-based, and they lose their best commodity.
And you called them arrogant last week, Kingy, so they head up to the Gabba. They've got to start well, Brisbane. Was it quarter 1 pressure that set it up for them?
They were fantastic early. And let's not sugarcoat this. They made Carlton jittery. They made them panicky with the ball. They forced them to operate at a speed that they didn't want to play at. They made them look. They made them lift the eyes off the footy and say, oh, what's coming here? Now, they're only little peaks, but they're enough to cause a little fumble. And if you watch that first quarter back, that first 15 minutes back, there are 7 or 8 players that we could have highlighted.
Yep.
And some of them are their top liners. So moments like this set up the game for me. And they set up Brisbane, who have struggled the last few weeks. So you've got to make them nervous about their own game plan. And they didn't do that, did they?
Fueled Brisbane's confidence, didn't it? At the same time that Carlton they just didn't come ready to throw the first punch to the Blues. They were a bit standoffish. They were waiting and seeing what Brisbane were going to dish up, and Brisbane took full advantage of it. So as great as we can talk about Carlton's comeback in the last quarter and all those sorts of things, the game was set up and won and lost in the first term.
Well, based on the pressure and the way it was set up,
Look at this.
This is all first quarter.
What is that?
yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
I mean, come on. I mean, this is...
It comes
This is
into the work
high-level
rate too.
stakes, you know. That's not AFL. Just waltzing out like that and then just trying to be a little bit arrogant again with the ball. I mean, he's had a fantastic year, but his last 2 weeks, you know, he's left opportunities on the floor for the opposition to take, and they have.
And you see the pressure off the back of that. You get your turnovers. Then you're going to get access to the corridor because weight of numbers, Kingy. You're going to transition, but when you open it up at the gap, it's like the travelator.
Look at that. Look at that quick decision. So players' eyes tell you what the planning is, doesn't it, Joey? So he looks straight in the corridor. They're smelling opportunity.
And the Blues knew this. They spoke about it pre-game. They said, we know we have to take away the corridor off the Brisbane lines because everybody knows that's what they want to do and that's where their biggest threat. Charlie Cameron straight away. He doesn't even look down the line. He's looking to see if there's an option into the corridor. It's aggressive. But this is Brisbane. They spoke about this after their disappointing loss to Richmond last week. They looked back at the first half, not the second half, and said, what did we do well? And they went through the corridor and said, right, that's how we need to play. That's what we're going to stick to. And to their credit, they went back with it today and it worked for them again.
They had no choice. Boring footy gets rolled in big games.
Yep.
We've seen that. Fremantle made change. Brisbane have made change. So if you think that's going to win your big finals, you're living a lie. So it was good to see Brisbane correct today.
Well, you said Adam Sard has had a good year. So Charlie Cameron, Adam Sard. How did you see that matchup? Sard had 24, Charlie 2, 11 and 8 score involvements. Who won that?
I thought Charlie was involved in everything early. And I know Sardi's had 10 intercepts and statistically it probably reads really well, but he was challenged by Cameron to go full length of the ground. He turned him around regularly, and when Charlie gets the ball, you bleed. 8 score involvements, and he has 11 touches, so 8 of them go on the scoreboard. 4 tackles inside forward 50. He was involved in everything.
Yeah, 2 goal assists, kicked a couple himself. And it's a tough one for Sard because Sard is a player that loves to see the game in front of him. And any time Charlie Cameron got behind him, he was able to do some damage. So I'm not sure whether the Sard matchup, I know he's got the wheels to go with Charlie Cameron, but I think you need a genuine defender that can actually lock away Charlie Cameron. Because if you get caught ball watching for half a second on him, he did what he did this afternoon. It was low possessions, but maximum impact.
And it got pushed back onto the lines late in the game, Kingy. It was 4 minutes to go, 4 goals up for grabs, the old scenario that we like. But this is a centre bounces.
Well, these are cut tight. So they won the last 7 centre bounce clearances, the Lions, and when it was go time, it got back to, 2.5 goals. So it was 3 minutes or 3.5 minutes, and they needed 3 goals to win Carlton. And it looked like they were going to get a sniff. But Lachie Neale said, not today. I've been the best player in the comp so far this year as a midfielder in particular, and I'm going to show you why. Some of these clearances are just ridiculous. Have a look at this last one in a second. This is Charlie Cameron again. Being able to set up a score from nothing. So the pressure was just enough to blow them away. Here's the Lachie Neale one.
So these were the last 4 centre clearances of the game.
Yeah, they are. And they won, like I said, they won 7.
Yep.
Lachie Neale won 4 himself in the last quarter. But this one here I thought was special. Just watch him hunt. Look, he's in, he's out, right? And then now he just says, that's my ball. 1 touch, step, and out of traffic. Yeah. I love the way he plays. He carries that midfield, really. He had some help today, which was good to see, but he's been a wonderful asset for the Lions. He's had a great season.
Does that give you a tick, Joey, late in that game when they came at Brisbane Lions and you can see them from a centre?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Again, it was Lachie Neale, though, again, who they always seem to rely on him. But they were challenged, Brisbane, but I think it was a gutsy win. They needed to win for their own confidence to give themselves some momentum. Still got a bit of work to do, I think, defensively, but it was a much better performance.
Yeah, it was. So it's 33-point win to the Brisbane Lions.